Good morning, denizens of the deep. Welcome to my argument, treatise, presentation, speech about why you, yes, you, should spend more of your life thinking about these amazing creatures right here, because they truly are wonders of biology and ecology, and we're going to get into all of the details today. Now, walruses, are they the pinnacle of evolution? Some might even say they are the peak marine mammal. Those some people are me. They have physiology precisely adapted for their foraging, swimming, and diving behaviors to exactly fulfill their niche. They have specialized hunting with minimized energy use, truly the most bang for your buck. And they are essential to the ecology of the Arctic, and the Arctic is important to the entire world. Thus, we all owe our lives to the walruses. Yes, really. Now, introduction. Walruses, you know them, you love them. But how did we get to this beautiful creature that we have on Earth today? So, their scientific name is Odobenus rosmaris, which translates to tooth-walking seahorse. Gotta say, perfect name for them. Look at these teeth. You could walk with these. And if you look at them, they kind of remind you of a horse. So, 11 out of 10 on naming. They have two subspecies, the Atlantic and Pacific walruses. You will never guess where those two species live. There are conflicting theories about the walrus's exact phylogeny. It's known that they are all part of the monophyletic group of pinnipeds, which are the sea lions, seals, and walruses. But there are different theories on how exactly the walrus is related to the other members of the pinniped group. So here are the two main theories. It's about whether walruses are more closely related to the otariids, or the sea lions and eared seals, or more closely related to the phocids, which is the true seals. Nowadays, the more accepted theory is A right here, which is that walruses are more closely related to sea lions, which does match up morphologically and genetically, but there is continuing research into their relations. They are the only extant member of Odobenidae, unlike the otariids and phocids, which have many species within those families. Walruses are the only living member of Odobenidae. Some might say the victor, some might say the winner, some might say number one. Yes, absolute win in the walrus column. And they have a rich fossil record that really shows how we got to what we have today. You can see their skull shape growing from looking more quote-unquote normal to slowly growing their magnificent tusks into the modern walrus. And they have such a rich fossil record, really helping out scientists. So many fossils to explore, you know what that means. Another win for the walrus. Now, getting into walrus physiology. Here's a quick comic about the anatomy of the walrus. As you can imagine, they have a lot of fan mail given that they are the best marine mammal. And they give high fives in 3 different ways, and they can open soup for you. Congrats, you met a walrus. I would love to meet a walrus. Anyway, walrus faces and skulls are perfectly adapted for their niche. So their face and skull are shaped for their benthic feeding style. Walruses dig down in the benthos, which we will get into a lot more later. But they have a more squat face to allow them to sift through the benthos using their vibrissae or their whiskers. They have 400 to 700 whiskers, and each one of them can be moved both vertically and horizontally. So they can use those both for digging into sand and sediment, as well as sensing for prey within the sediment. So their whiskers are very sensitive and very dexterous, which is really amazing. And they have very strong tongue and lips with thick with a thick maxilla on top. That's this right here. If you will notice just how thick their lips are here, and their tongue that often has a curved divot in the end right here that you can see. They use their very strong mouth to create a super strong suction force that can pull the soft flesh straight out of clams very, very quickly and efficiently, because clams are their number one food source. So they are perfectly adapted to specialize in clam and other bivalve feeding. And here is one way that they can do that. They can sift through the sand and sediment looking for clams, feeling for them with their whiskers. When they find them, they can either dig them up, or they can use their powerful lips and tongue to blow a stream of water to clear the sediment off of the clams, and then they can suck them out. Now, perhaps their most distinctive, iconic feature, tusks. You know them, you love them. Beautiful tusks right here on this guy. So it was a long road to get to where we are. As we discussed, walruses have a long and storied fossil record, beginning from having relatively normal-sized canines early in their fossil record, to slowly growing over time and adapting to having the modern walrus tusks, which can be absolutely gigantic. So the tusks aid them in hauling out onto ice and also moving while they're on ice, helping them get more traction. But their main role is actually in social function. So they are used in conflicts between males that are either fighting for dominance, fighting for females, fighting for territory. But they can also be used just in play fighting when they're juveniles. And females can actually use them to fight for territory as well. It is not just male walruses which have tusks. Both males and females do have tusks. And they can also be used for predator defense against things like the polar bear right here. I personally would indeed want some large weapons on my face if I was facing down a polar bear. Now, moving beyond their face, we are going to get into their body physiology. They have skin up to 4 centimeters thick, and it is even thicker on male shoulders, which is where they usually are receiving wounds from the tusks when they're fighting. And their very thick skin is used for insulation as well as protection from predators as well as tusks. They also have blubber that is up to 10 centimeters thick. That is also for insulation since they do live in the Arctic. And that contributes to their thermoregulation. They also have air sacs near their shoulder neck area that helps keep their heads above water when they are resting out at sea, or they can even sleep in the water, and these air sacs will keep them from drowning. So they have a built-in life preserver, truly an all-around full package mammal right here. And they have flippers that are adapted for a combined use of forelimbs and hind limbs when they're swimming. When they are swimming, they use mostly their hind limbs oscillating back and forth, but they can also use their forelimbs for a little bit of propulsion as well as steering. They are making use of their whole body to not have to expend an excess amount of energy when swimming, because they tend to keep their dives relatively shallow and short. Just think about it. Would you rather be this guy right here, gingerly, just lightly using your hind limbs to slowly propel you forward in the water, not having to do too much, just slowly easing forward? Or would you rather have to put so much effort, like this sea lion right here, to flap your entire forelimbs to shoot forward after a fish or anything, when you could just be slowly moving forward like this? I know that I would much rather just be floating in the water, hanging out like this amazing walrus here. Getting into walrus ecology, the fate of the world rests on their wrinkled shoulders. Now, getting into their ecology, their feeding ecology and diving behavior. Instead of long, deep dives, they have many short, shallow dives throughout their dive excursions. You can see this study here showed that most of the dives studied were less than 50 meters. They can consume 35 to 50 kilograms of food per day and can eat 6 to 9 clams a minute using their rapid sucking motion in their mouth to rapid fire suction the clams and other bivalves out of their shell. And they eat about 50 clams per dive. So they're only diving down to a little under 50 meters for just a few minutes, but in that time they can get about 50 clams. And this diagram shows it here about how they just quickly go up and down to the benthos. They have diving excursions that last up to 72 hours, and then they spend 24 or more hours resting on land. I know that I would be exhausted after diving for 72 hours straight. So, walruses, they are the unsung heroes of the Arctic environment. When they are feeding, they are kicking up sediment, they are clearing out bivalves, they are really changing their environment in ways that a lot of other marine mammals don't. So they are intermediate disturbers of benthic communities. You can imagine removing 50 clams every dive and going on dozens of dives every day. They are removing a large amount of clams from the benthos. And that is important to those communities because it contributes to intermediate disturbance model, which means that other scavengers can come in and have access to that habitat and also the important food source of the scraps that the walruses leave behind, shown here. In addition, when they dig down to feed, they also disturb the sediment called bioturbation, and that's actually been seen in a lot of studies where the sediment in walruses' habitats is extremely mixed when compared to other areas. And walrus foraging oxygenates the sediment, which is really important for the microbial communities down there, as well as providing new surface area exposed in the surface of the sediment, which is perfect for new colonization of microbes, benthic invertebrates, and any other organisms. And digging also releases trapped nutrients and organic matter into the water column, which is especially important in the winter when ice is blocking the surface of the water, and also there's basically no photosynthesis. So it's really important to have a release of those stored organic materials back into the water column. Now, we've established that walruses are extremely important to Arctic ecosystems. But why do we care about Arctic ecosystems? Why is the Arctic important to us? So Arctic ecosystems regulate global climate through albedo feedback, as well as pushing cold water and air around the planet. They create worldwide water current and circulation patterns. They generate a significant amount of productivity, which both sequesters carbon from the atmosphere and it supplies millions of humans with essential protein sources in the forms of fish, crustaceans, anything else that humans eat. So, in conclusion, what have we learned today? Walruses are incredibly cool, but not cold because they have those insulation layers keeping them warm. They have perfectly evolved anatomy that frankly we should all be jealous of. They are specialized hunters for maximum, and I mean maximum, clam consumption at all times. And they are essential to Arctic environments and thus vital to each and every one of our lives. When you wake up tomorrow morning, be sure to thank a walrus.